Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to GumGum's panel on the state of creative and innovation in connected television. I'm Tony Katsur, the CEO of the IAB Tech Lab. I'll kick off with just a little kind of primer for the group, and then my panelists, you guys can introduce yourselves. I don't think it's any question that we have crossed the Rubicon in terms of streaming taking over linear as the dominant form of television consumption, certainly in the US. Here in Europe, it does lag behind the US. Linear is still the dominant environment, but the trends are very clear. Within the next 5 years, streaming will eclipse linear here in the US, in Europe, as well as other parts of the globe. So I think we can safely say within the next 5 to 7 years, streaming will be the dominant form by which people consume television. But that has also come with some of its challenges. CTV is hyper fragmented. There's so many different environments, so many different formats, so many different providers of streaming content that it can often be very frustrating and difficult for brands to cohesively advertise across of those. And one area that where there's a struggle is in the area particularly of creative formats. How many different versions of a QR code does the industry need? So there's a lot of tension between creative innovation and the fragmentation we see in CTV. So I will set the stage with that, and then I would like to hand over to my panelists to introduce themselves.
Sure. I'm Kristy Quagliariello. I lead the programmatic practice at Klick Health.
I'm Alistair Sutcliffe. I'm head of product at LG Ad Solutions.
And I'm Ken Weiner, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer at GumGum.
Thank you. Well, Ken, let's start with you. GumGum, over the years, you've highlighted the growth potential and the value in mid to long tail CTV, right? There's, if you think of Tubi, it's funny we think of Tubi as long tail. They streamed the Super Bowl this year. Pluto as a way to reach kind of under leveraged or not as often reached audiences. What would be your advice to advertisers that are watching this in the room that are hesitant to invest in fast channels or mid or long tail channels versus only just trying to do like premium CTV like Netflix, Hulu, or Disney? There's so much opportunity in all those other channels. What would be your advice to brands and their agency partners?
Yeah, I would say to first of all, just take a look around at what's going on in CTV and on various platforms with the plethora of new content that's appearing. Because most people just know the household names like a Hulu or a Netflix, but if you turn on a television and let's say you turn on your LG, you go to LG channels, I mean, how many hundreds of channels are on there now? And a lot of people aren't familiar with what's past channel 12, right? But you can get up to channel 300 because there's such an opportunity now for content creators and streaming publishers to put all kinds of niche content out there. And it's often free and ad supported, which is why we call them fast channels, right? And I would say that in addition to it being an opportunity for incremental reach for advertisers, it's also an opportunity to reach people in a mindset. Because if you look at a household name, movie provider like Netflix, these are people that are kind of lean back, ready to just watch something, be entertained. They might not be in a specific type of mindset, but if you look at some of the fast channels that are out there, they're often on very niche topics. And because they are, you can kind of make assumptions about what the people that are watching might be into or what kind of mindset they're in. And so it really provides an opportunity for a mindset-based approach to targeting these users. For example, if somebody's watching a fast channel called Wired to Fish, who happens to be one of our publishers, you're pretty sure that they're into fishing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be watching this.
I watch Wired to Fish.
Do you watch Wired to Fish?
I am a fisherman. Yes.
Yeah. So that opens up the door for advertisers who want to target, people that have an interest in fishing.
Mm-hmm. It's actually a great channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. It harkens to the days of cable. Cable's still here. There's 200 to 250 channels on cable. So why? And that's been a boon for advertisers since cable, right? So why would fast be any different? Kristy, Klick Health, pharma, you work with a lot of pharma. Pharma's historically relied on linear television for broad reach, or just cable,
Yep.
Those 250 channels. How is programmatic in streaming change your approach to patient-centric targeting? You have more data, and there's HIPAA compliance, and there's tons of privacy laws around healthcare data. Can you share an example where Klick Health, you've leveraged CTV audience data to improve efficiency while also being compliant with privacy for healthcare campaigns?
Yeah, definitely. So much like Ken said, there's an audience for everything. And I think when we look back like 3-4 years ago, we really leaned into the premium. Like it was Hulu, Paramount Plus, Disney, etc. And then we realized there's so much more out there when we look at Tubi, like you mentioned, Anthony, when we look at OEMs like LG, to buy that reach as well. Because in the past, especially with people churning right now, you just keep reaching the same audience, or you kind of hit a plateau. So we've really leaned into diversifying our CTV apps that we're targeting, but we always lean into an audience-centric or data-driven approach. We are always layering on, whether it's contextual with a partner like GumGum, whether it's third-party segments through some of our healthcare data partners, and to Ken's point too about like these niche audiences, like maybe we have identified that a persona or someone that's suffering from a specific disease state is really into fishing. Like that would be a perfect example. So I think we've really leaned into programmatic specifically because there's such a low barrier to entry. A lot of our clients aren't relying on linear TV. They don't have the budgets for linear. And so being able to activate programmatically, being able to be nimble and turn off and on the programmatic test and learn with different apps and partners and data partners just gives us such an amazing opportunity. And I think a lot of our pharma clients, anyone who's ever worked in pharma, are a lot slower to pick up on trends, or like they still think that CTV is like emerging channel. So I think it like from that perspective, they look at linear TV and it's a very efficient reach driver. But then when we look at the measurement perspective and we look at like a cost per patient reach, like you can't replicate that on linear. So we're seeing amazing results when we look at like audience quality, cost per patient reach when we run CTV campaigns.
Do you think of that? So is it an incrementality play as well? There's incremental reach in CTV,
I would say,
but also I feel like it also broadens your customer base because it is more accessible. The barrier to entry in advertising in FAST is it doesn't cost as much.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say it's twofold for our clients that are heavily leaned into linear. It is definitely an incremental play. And then for our smaller clients that don't have linear and really want to test CTV, it's just like getting them comfortable with that channel. And being able to measure it is amazing.
And how do you do that? Is it a lot of test and learn? Like, hey, let's put some budget into this.
Yeah. We
can come back with more robust measurement, more precise measurement, more kind of surgical measurement, not to use a medical term.
Yeah.
Unintended pun. Is that what it is? Is it just education, evangelization? Let's run a test.
Exactly. And I think we still usually start with those premiums, and then we'll go to the fasts, and then we'll go to the OEMs, and then kind of like an everything else, because that's where the majority of the inventory is, and we don't want to leave that out. At the end of the day, there could be a very big audience play there that is not subscribing to Hulu or doesn't have Tubi, et cetera.
Right. You're losing out potentially an audience that aren't subscribing to those things for sure.
Yep.
Alistair, LG, the television, that big screen in all of our homes across the world, like that is the new canvas by which television advertising is presented to consumers. What are the learnings you've gained at LG in terms of how that canvas manifests itself in terms of the attention it can drive? Because there's so much more. What's exciting for me at the Tech Lab or for the Tech Lab about CTV is there's richer advertising units than you could ever do historically on linear. And I'm also, what's funny is when I do watch linear television, I feel like they've kind of picked up some of the things we've done as digital kids, and we're starting to see those things on linear. What are you seeing in LG in terms of what's performing well? What's driving engagement? What's driving customers to convert, or whatever outcome an advertiser is looking for? How has that changed the game, and how are you guys? What's hot right now? What are the kind of the hot formats?
Yeah, certainly as a consumer in front of a television first opens up that television and sees this huge carousel unit banner, we've got a great responsibility to make that right and do the right things with those ad units. And I'd say as people spend more and more time seeking content and searching for content, you've obviously got a great opportunity there to help the consumer make those choices with these ad units for the media and entertainment clients. I think we've seen over the last couple of years amazing innovation in these native units. And they're being really adopted by a lot of advertisers because of how measurable they are, but how you can really go beyond the CTV video traditional units with these units. We've done a lot of creative work with partners. A good example of that is our 3D units, where it looks like the images are popping off the screen. And you're balancing there being too obtrusive, right? You're making it incredibly appealing. So the consumer can instantly see, wow, look at my screen, I've got 80 inches worth of ad space here. Very informative about what the content is. The nice thing about these environments is they're also targetable. So those ads in these native environments should be super relevant to the consumer. So they're highly relevant, they're very beautiful, they're very interactable. And so it's a very nice environment for an advertiser to use these additional formats to supplement their campaigns. And we're seeing really a lot of advertisers embrace it, whether you're on the media and entertainment side or the general market side of the world.
Are there any units in particular that are hot right now? Like what's popping off the screen, pun intended?
Well, certainly the big display units, as I said, with the 3D creative and so on.
I haven't seen those. I would imagine those.
Yeah, they're very impressive.
Definitely attention grabbing.
There are other integrations we've done, such as great partners like Brightline, for example, where the ad units themselves, you're interacting with it. And LG has a wonderful magic remote where you can actually scroll through if you're really interested in the content, therefore engaging the user to seek more. So I'd say those units where they expand the things, they give you more information. Of course, there's the QR code there, as you mentioned, but it just goes more than that into more shoppable environments that are very possible through these interactive units.
And you are seeing consumers are interacting with it. They actually are engaging.
We are, and as you look at what happens to branding results, like brand awareness, if you're packaging those kind of units that are a very different type of format sometimes than a traditional CTV video unit, you see a great increase in brand awareness. Yeah. So they're very useful for driving that.
Got it. Kristy, pharma historically, or medical advertising in general, historically has been, I don't want to say not innovated. I think kind of the 2-minute info shorts were, I think pharma kind of really started those. But since then, there really hasn't been a lot of evolution in terms of pharma or medically oriented creative. What's Klick doing working with your clients to get them engaged with these units, leveraging these units? How are you balancing that versus not being, you don't want to be too overbearing to potential pharma customers? How are you balancing that again with medical privacy and brand recall against those things?
Yeah, so much like Alistair said, we don't want an intrusive format, but also what I was saying earlier with pharma being, very slow to pick things up. We have, I would say, what most of our clients have done so far is more like the QR code, like
Yep.
very low hanging fruit. They don't have video assets. How can we work with our partners to create an asset from static image and, put the QR code? And we've seen really great reception on that and performance. What really interests me and what we've been putting in front of a lot of clients are pause ads, because you have that, that experience where a consumer is pausing the ad. You can really passively target them, and you know that it's a non-intrusive experience. It's not like a mid-roll ad that they have to watch through.
Is that pause with a QR code?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because we definitely want them to take an action, not just, okay, here's information about a specific drug and, call it a day.
But to learn more, scan the QR code.
Exactly. Whether it be learn more, doctor finder, copay, anything that can take them to the site, and we can collect data from that as well. So that's something that we've been putting in front of a lot of clients. But again, it's really hard because on the pharma side, a lot of clients, they turn on their TV, and some of those immersive units, it's like usually CPG or travel or autos, and they want to see an example of a pharma before they kind of move forward. They're very, I want to say gun shy with
the other verticals are.
Yeah, no. Pharma is.
Pharma,
Yeah.
okay. Pharma wants to see automotive do it, or CPG.
Yeah,
or
they
want to
see their competitor do it first before they jump to feed in. Also because it costs a lot to make a pharma ad too. So any of those immersive ads, you have to go through all these regulatory processes. And then when we talk about there's no standardization between, LG and Samsung and Hulu and Paramount. And I know that's a question coming up, but
I'll give you 20 bucks later.
Yeah.
Set us up well.
There's no standardization. So it's just so costly for them to create 5 different units to run with 5 different partners. And then there's no consistency there.
Speaking of standardization, Kristy, the IAB Tech Lab, we kicked off the Ad Format Hero initiative late last year and announced finalists. We kicked it off late last year, and then we announced it. We evangelized it further at IAB's annual leadership meeting in January. We got I think we got at last count 112 submissions, and we've distilled it down into 8 formats. The Ad Format Hero initiative the intended goal is to standardize around a common set of CTV units. Furthermore, the Ad Format Hero initiative probably wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Ken and I having a drink here at Cannes last year, a year ago, and Ken was like, man, it's just a mess out there in terms of standard CTV ad formats. And I was like, yeah, what should we do about that? He's like, we should standardize. And then sure enough, I went and ended up that week, so a year ago, I started bringing this up to some of our other CTV members at the Tech Lab, whether there's Paramount or NBC Universal. I talked to them and they were like, yeah, Ken's right. Yeah, we definitely need to standardize this. It's a mess. And therefore Ad Format Hero was born. So Ken, I've always attributed to that conversation. You have been in this industry for a long time. You've patented server-side ad insertion technology at GumGum, but we still find adoption of these formats, and Ad Format Hero is new, but adoption around creative standards in CTV kind of still lags. Where else do you see in CTV specifically opportunities for standardization? As a Tech Lab board member, you're basically going to give us work to do. So, and this will be recorded, so I can go back and refer to it.
Well, the good news, I think, is that as we've been meeting as a working group for this standardization, we've made tremendous progress, and I can actually see it all kind of coming together. So all the complexity that was there a year ago when we talked at Cannes has been distilled down to 8 buckets of CTV formats, which I think are really capturing what's going on out there. So I'm optimistic about the standards, but I think the real challenge is going to be the implementation and adoption of those standards once we get to a point when they're kind of baked. Because right now, if you go into a buying platform, be it a DSP or whatever, there's just not options to kind of set up or select what types of ads you want to run. There's not options to to read in and describe the inventory that's coming into the buying platform. And that's going to take some work, right? And it's going to take advertisers and agencies to push on the buying platforms to go ahead and start adopting these standards, right? Because that's going to make it very easy to transact, and will just make all these different experiences that we've been talking about a lot more scalable.
Yeah. With creative standardization, I'm assuming would also probably unlock, it would make your life easier in terms of getting your clients to 100%. Do more in streaming, yes. Right?
Yeah.
Because standardization would basically lower creative costs. And like you said, you already have a high creative cost for regulatory compliance purposes. But now you're not creating, this effectively the same creative for 15 different platforms because there is no standardization. So this would kind of grease your wheels
100%.
In terms of getting your clients on board. So buying platforms out there, there's an opportunity here to do this. Some of this does come back to how this is rendered at the OEMs.
Absolutely.
So within LG Ad Solutions, how are you guys thinking about creative standardization? And will you adopt the standards? No.
Well, as you know, we're really leaning into the Hero initiative.
Yes, you guys are.
And we submitted our units in there. And we do recognize we've started actually programmatically sending our native units out through Magnite. We announced that. But we know that buyers want to buy at scale programmatically and choose the way that they want to buy from the infrastructure. So we will adopt these standards, and we can see a great leap in programmatic native units that will flow the way that the buyers want to buy them. Now, we've got to balance this, of course, with protections around creative, especially in the programmatic world. I think technology like AI is going to solve a lot of these things around creative, where it can actually look at the ad, assess it for its safety, and give some confidence that the OEM is not going to put on such a large format ad in front of a consumer.
When you say brand safety, or you just mean consumer experience?
Consumer experience about what creative's there. We already have strict guidelines of what actually appears in that home screen.
Sure.
But I think the standards are a great thing to adopt, especially to get that flow and make this a standard across the industry.
Right, it creates a rising tide. Right?
Absolutely.
Your clients win, LG wins, your competitors win, but the industry as a whole, it makes this transition into CTV much easier. It's one more wall we need to break down in order to get more dollars into streaming.
Yeah, and in general, LG are also doing a little work around the ID spaces, like the UID, the PAL signals from Google. All these things create additional standardization. So we don't just think about standardization as, let's say, enabling programmatic. It's the standardizations around alternative ID spaces to preserve privacy, to preserve these ID spaces in the ad request that just make this a better environment for all advertisers to participate.
We're deeply immersed into the privacy first identity space at Tech Lab. So yeah.
And I think also I'd add that adding as much metadata as we can into that stream, so that people know what they're buying and what the context is of that ad, is just a good thing for the industry, for everyone to rise. Absolutely.
Let's stay with you, Alistair. We're in the rapid fire round of our session. We'll start with question one, and we'll go to you, Ken, and then Kristy will go to you. What CTV creative standard or type are you most excited for? It's either emerging or it's here, and you're like, I think this is going to be hot. Maybe it's a 3D one, but.
No, I would say just in general, when all of these creative are delivered to the right person, right time, right message, and every one of those is optimized now using all the AI tools out there, it's very, very close. And the way things are moving so quickly in this environment, with integrations like the Databricks environments, for example, that people are adopting, and all the data in the cloud. I think these are amazing innovations of how to deliver the message most effectively for an advertiser to maximize performance in a very brand safe and beautiful creative environment.
So AI, almost like AI-driven DCO in CTV?
Yes. Yeah.
Ken, what's going to be hot in 2025? What are we talking about here next year
Yeah,
in
well,
CTV?
after seeing some of the survey results that we got in from the IAB Tech Lab survey, it was pretty apparent that pause ads are of great interest, as Kristy talked about. So just based on that data, I think we're going to start to see a lot more of that. And that was, I think, based on people describing pause ads as a great user experience, right? But I would also say that survey went out to people, but it didn't necessarily go out to their children. And from my own experience, like looking at ads on TV with my family and my children, the one thing they can't stand is regular linear ads that interrupt their time.
The 30,
right?
the 30 second, the 1
30
minute,
second, the 50 second, the thing that we've all become accustomed to growing up as TV commercials, right? For my kids, they just can't stand that. They'd rather walk away from the TV than sit through that. And so I'm very optimistic about what we call nonlinear ad formats, right? Which are ads that co-occur as content is playing, and they take some attention away from the viewer, but they don't take their time away. Right. And so
the squeeze backs, things like that.
So I think as the next generation, as my kids represent, start to be more become the consumers of the future, they will start to demand more ad experiences that are integrated into content. And so for that, I'm really excited about various types of overlay products, or so-called squeeze back ad units where the content keeps playing while the ad is playing. And I think that's going to be big in the future.
Yeah. Every time my son complains about an ad that's being streamed when we're watching television, I'm like, hey, it pays the bills. Kristy, what about you? What are you and your clients bullish about for 2025 from a creative perspective?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off what Alistair said. I think the DCO aspect is something we've leaned into a lot in, online video and display with weather triggers and geo triggers, and really being able to target that right audience at the right time, especially with specific disease states when we think of migraines or allergic reactions, stuff like that, where there are specific weather triggers or specific triggers out there.
So real weather feeds could change the nature of the creative.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's move beyond creative in the last of our kind of our rapid fire round. Kristy, we'll stay with you. If you could change anything or fix anything in CTV today, whether it's creative, you want to stay there, measurements, the programmatic pipes, currency, what's one thing you would want to see fixed today? And you've got your finger on the pulse of brands, so this matters.
I would say it's, the standardization and like the fragmentation that is still occurring. Like
audience fragmentation?
No, I would say like partner fragmentation. So when you see like Amazon Prime is, for us, we can only buy that direct. So we can't, that's going to be a walled garden, and we can't integrate that measurement into our full omni-channel buy in another DSP. So I think there's a lot of fragmentation still out there that we really need to work on solving, and I think that's kind of goes hand in hand with measurement too.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazon, you're on our board, you're listening. You heard it from Kristy.
Oh no.
Alistair.
I'll go with measurement as well, with a slightly different angle. I agree with everything you just said there. I think we'll find it's going to be a different measurement delivery in the future. When you have data so freely accessible, hopefully with standards as well, you're going to be able to query these databases with natural language, and not just have fixed reports and dashboards that we're all just getting all the time, week after week from fixed systems, but something dynamic. Where
more
you
nuanced.
Where you can query it, you can get out information you want in different formats. So that's what I think we'll see in the future very quickly through all the technology of how fast data can be manipulated with cloud, Databricks, some of the BI tools, and the AI agents that are going to deliver that to consumers.
So more nuanced than just your reach and frequency kind of measurements, right?
It's as you'll want to see it,
right.
And the agents will deliver it to you in exactly the form you want it, by you asking these measurement databases for that information at your fingertips to make decisions.
Interesting. That's interesting. Ken, you've been innovating in this sector for ever. Yeah. What needs to be fixed? What's urgent?
Well, for variety, I'll go with something other than measurement. So I think one of the big things, and I'll go with kind of a programmatic pipes situation. Sure. In order to really understand a user's mindset and effectively deploy contextual targeting, there are certain data signals that really need to be there that aren't widespread yet, that are growing. So one of them is that you need to have identity for the video that's being played. And that can come in the form of something as simple as a URL for the video, or it may be an identifier for the video. And there's companies out there like Iris TV, for example, that are trying to really make it an industry standard to decorate the bid stream with a video identifier. That's one piece of it. So that allows companies that have technology that can understand digital content to basically analyze the videos, right, going frame by frame. But the second piece of data that's missing in a lot of times is the specific timestamp of where that ad is going to appear within the video that you're watching. And that's important because you don't want to just like know something about the entire movie, for example. You want to know what's happening at the precise moment that an ad is going to be showing, whether that ad is a linear ad that's coming in an ad break right after maybe an emotional scene, or even more so for a nonlinear ad where the ad is right there as you're experiencing the content, and the contextual and emotional understanding of that moment in time is so much more important. So you need the timestamp and the identity of the video, and that's going to enable an ecosystem of technology providers to enable this type of advanced contextual targeting for video.
Yeah, and I know GumGum's been talking about that for a while, and ultimately television is sight, sound, and motion. It's a story. It's a story that's told to us. So there's always emotion tied to that. So the closer we can get an ad to the emotion or the emotive state of the consumer, probably a much more effective ad.
For
So
sure.
I mean that feels holy grail to me. Like that would be very cool.
Especially with brand safety, right?
Yep.
Because if you try to examine a movie for a brand safety situation, right, you're probably going to find an unsafe situation in the movie. And the current state of the industry is like, oh, let's avoid showing ads in this movie because we found, a sexually charged scene, for example. But everybody knows that if you look scene by scene, you could be 30 minutes away from that scene and in a happy family moment or something, or a joyous moment where it really makes sense to show an ad.
Sure.
And so we just have to have that granularity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there is a lot to standardize here in connected television. As I mentioned earlier, we have crossed the Rubicon, certainly in the US. More consumers are consuming television over streaming versus linear, but also in a lot of ways in streaming, even though it's evolved so much and it's become very much a significant industry unto its own in terms of just the amount of spend, the dollars that are going into it, we're still kind of in the first inning. So there's a lot of work we need to do as an ecosystem to standardize around creative, measurement, currency, emotive state of the consumer, and I would just throw one more in there: live events. Being able to scale the ability to stream live events effectively, but also ensuring that the advertising also flows appropriately with massively scaled live events. So I want to thank my panelists, Kristy, Alistair, and Ken. Thank you for having me here. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. And have a great Cannes.